Remembering this morning, James Lovell, who, of course, one of the great, as Peter Baker said, one of the great explorers in the history of humankind. He, of course, was uttered those famous words, Houston, we have a problem. In Apollo 13, we heard Tom Hanks playing Lovell there, but he was on Gemini 7, Gemini 12, Apollo 8, Apollo 13. As Axios writes this morning, the two Apollo missions gripped not only Americans, but people across the globe. This was, David Ignatius, a time when the United States of America was pushing out against the boundaries not only of space exploration, but science, technology, medicine, daring to go places that no one in the history of humankind had ever dared to go before. And it was America, as John Meacham would say in his new book, an America with open arms and not closed fists. And we still, aren't we? We're still standing on the shoulders of those giants who started pushing the exploration of science and physics and technology. And that's why we live in the world we live in today, because we did open our arms. We did look to the future instead of closing up, clenching our fists, and going in retreat like we seem to be doing these days.
So, Joe, that was a time, as you say, of undaunted courage, to use the phrase that was the title of a biography of Lewis and Clark, our early explorers. I grew up in the generation where we gathered in school each morning to watch the Gemini flights, the early Apollo flights, and that sense of America reaching out, truly doing what no other country had done or dreamed of doing, and doing it with incredible speed. The fact that, within less than a decade after President Kennedy's invocation to move into space, we were landing on the moon. Jim Lovell was part of that. We remember Apollo 13, his key mission, as the moment of almost disaster for that program, and his courage, the flat voices of those NASA astronauts back and forth, the ground control and the people in space, just calm as can be as they were dealing with a potential nightmare. That phrase, Houston, we have a problem, we'll always remember. So there is a sense, Joe, as these people pass away, of that era of just unchallenged American dominance and achievement moving behind us now.
Well, and that happens again when you dare to look forward, when you dare to explore. And we're not just talking about space, Mika, we're talking about science. So many programs being cut and slashed right now for no good reason at all. We talked about RFK Jr. And the disastrous decision, according to most medical researchers, that he is making, slashing funding for medical research, and doing it just to appease a certain sliver of a certain base. Most Americans oppose that. You look at NIH funding, National Institute of Health, and slashing funding for women's health, for men's health, slashing funding for Alzheimer's, slashing funding for cancer research, slashing funding. You go down the list. You look at the slashing of funding for research and development. It makes absolutely no sense at all. And again, we will become a poorer country because of this, unless we have a Republican Congress that will actually work in a bipartisan way with Democrats to restore funding to the National Institutes of Health, that will restore funding to critical research and development programs and studying on our best college campuses, not just our best college campuses, the best college campuses on the planet. Instead of going around trying to figure out how to punish the best R&D institutions on the globe, I don't know. Why don't you figure out a way to forge partnerships with them? This is where we grow our future. Okay, right now, what we're doing is we're, as old saying goes, we're eating the seed corn. It's stupid. And the latest is $1 billion demand from UCLA to pay the federal government. Why? Does the federal government need $1 billion more dollars? Or do those doing research and development in California, in the California school system, do they need that money? I think most Americans would say it's worked since World War II. It not only got us to the moon, it got us to where we are in the information age and the technology age, and now the AI age. There's a reason the United States continues to lead in these areas. And it's because we have invested in R&D instead of punishing those that have been leading the way. It's incumbent on Republican congressmen and senators to stand up and do what they know is right for America instead of following a path that will lead us to a second-rate status. Anyway,
there are a couple.
That's one thing that Jim Lovell's life taught us. That again, as Meacham says, you know, we look to the world with open arms instead of clenched fists, and anything is possible in America.